Gaming is culture.
You fucking whiny whore.
Gaming.
Let's see. There it is. That's not from the game. Let me get the one from the game. Where are you? OG. There we go. I just want to point this out, too. So during an interview, Hamaguchi talked about how things have been going for Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy after reveal of Revelation. While we do not get specific stats on sale figures, Hamaguchi made it clear that pulling back the curtain on Revelation gave both Remake and Rebirth a serious boost. Uh-oh. They're doing extremely well, even before Summer Games Fest. Both Remake and Rebirth have been selling steadily. Brutal, man. For the first time ever, I think Square came out and said, that's what I was trying to find, that the sales were, you know, better than expectations, which is a shock, if you know anything about Square Enix. Let's see. I was gonna pull up something real quick too. Don't have my email tab open still. While we're just sitting here listening to music, I figured I'd pull some stuff up. Is this what I wanted? Nah, I don't know. I should pull that up. That one might not be good for the stream. I don't think Schizo's here anymore. Shit. Did I not? Dude, I could have swore I sent myself like 3 things today. Did these just not send? He finally took his pills. That's good, man. SNK Nostalgia, the 2 Japan is taking away games from the West.
Guy!
I agree, man. wanted to pull this up for him, dude. Because I'm glad it's not just me, man. I'm not the only one that's noticed this. What the fuck is Clannad even about? She looks like a cockroach, which I agree, man. I absolutely agree. $115K likes is brutal, dude. Clannad cells? That's right. What is your answer? Clannad is one of the biggest drama animes out there. Yeah, I know what Clannad is. I just don't really like it. Let's see. Hold on. I played Final Fantasy 15 first as well, and now I've gone to play. Yeah, exactly, dude. I know. Again, I have 5 people I know for a fact got into Final Fantasy because of 15. Like, objective fact. So, if anything, that's what got me back into it, too, because I hadn't played Final Fantasy since 13, which, yeah, duh. But, you know, the MMO I didn't really care too much about, and, you know, 15 is what reinvigorated my passion. Because, 13 was fine, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. So, I was kind of, like, lukewarm on it overall. But 15 is really what got my appreciation for the franchise, like, I guess renewed. Because, you know, I played Final Fantasy 7 and 8. I never played 9. I played 10. And then 12 I never played. And, yeah, then 13 I played the 3 of those. 14 I didn't really play because MMOs. And then 15 is, like, what got me really back into it. SNK nostalgia with the 2. Have you played a Final Fantasy Tactics yet? No, I have not. That's, again, one of those games I have on my list of stuff to play at some
People
point.
are probably going to get mad and call this video propaganda.
But, you know, it's just too many games, not enough time.
But in my defense, it's not my fault. The only thing you have to do to make anti-communist propaganda is to open a history book.
Yeah, I have it on a Switch, so I haven't the intention to play it. I just haven't gotten around to it.
And start reading it out loud. Today we're talking about the Berlin Wall. It is one of the greatest examples of capitalism versus communism, East versus West, Hungary versus Fed that the world has ever seen. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Operation Good Boy. It's a monthly subscription. We've got a little right. Carrying a cargo plane into West Berlin every 2 minutes, all day, every day for 15 months straight, feeding and supplying an entire city with 4.6 billion pounds of supplies. If you want to watch that full video, I'll have that linked right here. If not, that's fine. Here's the bare minimum background info that you need. Right after World War II, Germany was basically split into 2 pieces. You had the Western powers, America, the UK, and France controlling the western half of Germany, and you had the USSR controlling the eastern half. And here's where that gets weird. They did the same exact thing with the city of Berlin, where the West controlled the western half and the USSR controlled the eastern half, except Berlin was 100 miles into the USSR territory. And this is why the USSR blockaded off West Berlin and tried to force them.
You would have time if you didn't spend 6 hours on But see, that's different. That's different, bro. That's more of a chat reading than actual gaming. That's the difference. Those type of games I specifically play because I don't have to dedicate much attention to them at all. I can kind of play them on autopilot. So that's a very different thing, and also it's nice to, you know, just have some chill gaming every once in a while.
To join because they didn't want a little speck of capitalism in their communist utopia. But the West isn't about to back down from a challenge, so America and the UK team up, Wonder Twin powers activate, they launch the Berlin airlift, they feed an entire city using nothing but cargo planes, and after 15 months, the USSR is finally forced to end the blockade because they can't afford to try to stop them anymore. So 1949, the roads and railways to West Berlin open back up, and everything goes back to working exactly how it was supposed to, and this is where the story really begins. From 1949 to 1951, we had what was known as a green border between East and West Germany. Basically, there was a border.
Yes, if you like Final Fantasy 15, I guarantee you will want to play more Final Fantasy games after that. Like, if Final Fantasy 15 clicks for you, bro, like, you will get a very, I don't want to say peculiar itch, because it makes it sound weird, but whatever. You will get the itch that cannot be scratched by any other franchise. I'll just tell you that. Like, there is something about the way those motherfuckers working at Square Enix, you know, write and tell a story that, you know, only Final Fantasy can do. And if it clicks, you will love it forever, essentially. I would say Final Fantasy 15, if you've never played Final Fantasy before, is like, it's the perfect normie bait, where it's like not so weirdly designed that someone unfamiliar with the franchise would be like totally lost. But it definitely borrows a lot of themes. I don't know. It's a good entry point. But yeah, for 20 bucks, I don't think there's a better deal in gaming than Final Fantasy 15 with all the DLC. Like, that's a crazy good value.
They're two separate countries. However, it was very, very easy to go from one country to the other and back. It was no big deal at all, which was really important because you have to remember, they just drew an arbitrary line right through the middle of Germany and were like, hey, these are two separate countries now. It was really complicated for a lot of people. You had people that had family members that now live in a different country. You had people whose home was in one country and job was in the other. You had farmers and property owners that now owned property in a country that they didn't live in. It was very, very complicated. And while the border is essentially open, a ton of people from East Germany are taking advantage of it and migrating to West Germany because it's way, way better to live in West Germany where the evil capitalist pigs from America and
Final Fantasy 15 as well is genuinely one of the most beautiful games as well you'll ever play. Like, from a visual perspective, especially on PC, like, there's something truly beautiful about, like, the color palette and everything. Like, it's a super aesthetically pleasing game.
The UK have been funneling in billions of dollars worth of food, money, and resources helping to build West Germany back up as a country, as opposed to the USSR over in East Germany, who has done the exact opposite because they said, hey...
Is Square paying you to talk about Final Fantasy 15? Nope. But I love Final Fantasy 15. Like, I will shill for that game always, bro. You know, when it was popular to hate Final Fantasy 15, I still loved it. So, I don't know. That's one of my, I guess it's like a Dark Souls 2 moment. You know, the people who, you know, ardently defend Dark Souls 2 as like the best Dark Souls game. I guess that's kind of the same thing. You know, I will never slander my beloved Final Fantasy 15. Again, is it perfect? No game is, but I like it overall.
We want our war reparations, and we want them right now. The USSR takes over $10 billion worth of hard assets and natural resources out of the East German economy and ships it back home. That is a third of the working capital of the entire country. Quite literally just took a third of their economy.
Not to mention, it has probably the best soundtrack of any Final Fantasy game ever. I will just throw that out there. Like, at times, it absolutely bodies even Final Fantasy VII.
And got rid of it. And if that wasn't bad enough, they also liquidated almost every factory in East Germany. They took all of the machinery, all the parts, all the material that they had, and shipped it back home to the USSR. Not only have they stripped East Germany of all of their product, they've stripped them of their ability to produce. They can't even work themselves out of this difficult situation. Because of this, understandably so, people start leaving East Germany in droves. Now, by 1952, the USSR identifies this problem, understanding, oh shit, obviously our policies aren't very popular. We should probably do something about that. The only question is, what are we going to do about it? Do we A, come up with new policies that incentivize people to stay, making them want to be there and making them want to be a productive member of the society? No, absolutely not. We're gonna go with option B, old reliable, good old-fashioned human rights violations. Okay, so here's the plan. We're gonna shut down the border between East and West Germany. We're gonna build a wall or a fence. And I know what you're thinking, walls don't work. Well, if the wall doesn't work, you know what is gonna work? The landmines that we put on the other side of it. And if that doesn't work, we're gonna get guard dogs. And if the guard dogs don't work, we're gonna put up a bunch of guard towers and we're gonna have over 20,000 men with guns watching the border 24/7 all the time, and they have the authority to shoot anyone trying to escape on sight. Now, obviously, there's one glaring hole in this plan. What if somebody is able
Alex with the 50. Can you hype me up and tell me why I should give Final Fantasy 15 a chance, or a second chance, and finish the game? I only ever reached the second region. So by second region, I'm assuming you mean like that coat.
All right, awesome.
Why can I not
Thanks,
think of the
nigga. All right.
name? Not Altisha. What is that place called with the bar? With the second best hotel in the game. What is that area called? I can't remember the name. I guess, what part of the story did you get to? That'll give me a perfect idea of where you were. Do you remember? Because by second second region, yeah, Golden Key, that was it. No, not Golden Saucer. After you defeat the Titan and go by boat. Okay, so you're in Altisha. So you made it pretty far in. I mean, you're like literally right at the point of the game when the story starts ramping up pretty heavily. So you got to the part with like Venice, basically. It looked like Venice. Yeah, you're like right at the part of the game when the story really starts ramping up. Basically, you got to this part, right? No, no. Oh, yeah, dude, you got to keep playing, then. You haven't been... Yeah, you need to keep playing. Like, once you get to Altisha is when the story, like, goes hard as fuck. So, yeah. The first part, like, up through Titan is kind of slow, but... Yeah, you got to stick with it. You, like, quit right before it gets good. And also, how long ago did you play it? Did you play it at launch, or... Because if you played it at launch, they've improved it a lot. Oh, you're still on the main... Never... Yeah, you have a long way to go, then. You basically quit right before it gets good, man. So you basically just quit right after the Titan. Okay, yeah. I would say rough it out more. So. Played it like 5 years ago or something. Okay, yeah. So you got the updates, but yeah, I would strongly advise to just kind of rough it out. Like, the first part of the game is kind of a drag, but it's kind of every Final Fantasy game. It's like one of those issues with JRPGs where you have to, like, commit the time for it to get better. But once you do the Titan and, yeah, you start getting more and more of a, I would say, consistent flow of the story, and things start getting a lot more interesting. Griffin having a no, bro, I'm telling you, gets better 15. Well, that's every JRPG. Every JRPG gets better 15 hours in. So that's a fair, talking point. That's a fair talking point. At least good JRPGs do. Well, if anything, I thought Claire Obscure got worse the longer you played. I thought it got worse the longer you played because it became way more reliant on the parry mechanic.
To get past the wall, navigate through a minefield, evade the dogs, and they get seen by the guard. But because the guard is an East German, and he probably doesn't want to be in East Germany either, what if the guard just doesn't shoot him and lets him go over to West Germany? Well, that's where the giant sand pit comes in. We're going to line the entire border between East and West Germany with a 30-foot wide pad of sand. And that way, we'll be able to see any footprints when somebody runs out of East Germany into the West. And then we're going to know that somebody escaped, and we're going to hold the guard on duty for...
Well, yeah, of course Death Stranding gets better 100 hours in, because you're done with the game and you can get rid of it.
That sector responsible, and then he's going to get in trouble. Having a very secure border isn't a human rights violation. Well, right, when you're using it to keep people out, but when you're using it to keep people in, it's absolutely a human rights violation according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Let me just read that for you. Article 13, Section 2, quote, everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and return to his country, end quote. So yes, turning an entire country into a prison and refusing to let anyone leave while you oppress them is in fact a human rights violation. However, to be completely intellectually honest, I do have to tell you that the Soviet Union is one of only 3 nations that refused to sign the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and they refused to sign it specifically because of Article 13.
Yeah, human rights are a fiction. They're literal toilet paper, unless somebody can enforce it.
Section 2, which I just read to you. They basically said that they would only consider signing it if this was added to the end of Article 13. Quote, in accordance with the procedure laid down in each country, end quote. They were unanimously declined.
I should play the pocket? Dude, I would just replay Final Fantasy 15 on stream. Like, I would rather just replay the actual game.
Because that would ruin the entire point of Article 13, which would basically just mean that, yeah, you have a human right to leave a country unless that country tells you you can't. So what's the point of even having that as a human right? So the border is pretty much completely shut down. The only exceptions to that are the fact that you can apply for a visa to leave East Germany. However, it's very expensive. You get interrogated by the government, and the only people to actually get these visas awarded to them are people that are working on behalf of the Communist Party or somebody that is obscenely rich and is for sure coming back anyways, which seems like a weird hypocritical policy for a communist regime whose ultimate goal is to have a moneyless, classless society where everybody is treated equally to have, but whatever. And then, of course, they have to allow travel from West Germany into West Berlin, and to do that, there's very, very strict routes anybody traveling from West Germany to West Berlin has to take, and they have to go straight from one, straight to the other, and they hit multiple checkpoints along the way. And this is extremely important because it opens up the Berlin loophole, because Berlin, the city that's 100 miles into communist territory, has that little speck of capitalism in it, and there's no border between West Berlin and East Berlin. So you can literally just walk from East Berlin right into West Berlin, and it's not an issue at all. So that becomes the only way to escape East Germany. People travel to East Berlin and then simply walk into West Berlin, and then they catch a car or a train or a bus from West Berlin to West Germany, and then they never go back. And between 1952 and 1961, somewhere between 2 and 4 million people do this. Bear in mind, East Germany only has a population of 17 million. That's over 20% of the population walks into West Berlin and never comes back. And of the people that did leave, they were disproportionately young, highly skilled, highly intelligent people like doctors, lawyers, skilled tradesmen, engineers. And because of this, this got the nickname the brain drain. So in 1961, the USSR is like, oh shit, this is a humongous problem. All the young, smart people are leaving. We got to do something about this. Should we, I don't know, incentivize highly successful young people to want to stay here? Nah. Break out old reliable, more human rights violations for everybody. So August 13th, 1961, in the middle of the night, a bunch of East German construction workers and cops show up with guns, and they put a fence all the way around West Berlin. Not to keep the West Berliners in, but to keep the East Berliners out. And East and West Berlin at this point in time were still very much intertwined. There were people that lived in the East and worked in the West and vice versa, and there were people that had family members on one side or the other side, and there were people that owned businesses and property. There were people that were seeing relatives and got separated from their families, and they weren't allowed to get back on the other side of the wall. There were literally thousands of people in Berlin that woke up one day and it was just like, congratulations, you just lost your job, you just lost your property, you lost your business, you're now separated from your family. Because of this, people started trying to break into West Berlin, or they were breaking out into East Berlin to get people and bring them back into West Berlin. At first, it was easy because it was just a fence and you could cut your way through it or you could scale it, but that fence rapidly turned into a 12-foot high concrete wall. And then when people started bringing ladders to scale over the top of it, they added a gigantic round metal top to it so there was nothing to grip and pull yourself over. And then they added barbed wire and guard towers and guards that were allowed to shoot you on sight and turned it into a full-on demarcation line around West Berlin. And that is when the escape attempts got incredibly creative. One of the more popular ones at the very beginning was that somebody from West Berlin would remove the gas tank from their car and they would just have a little 1-gallon jug for gas, just enough gas to drive into East Berlin, pick somebody up, and drive back to the West. And the person would be strapped up underneath the car where the gas tank was supposed to be. But then the communists figured that out, and then they had the guards at every checkpoint before a car could go into West Berlin. They would take a flexible metal wire and shove it down into where the gas tank should be to make sure it was in fact a gas tank. So then that—
Oh my god, dude, all the little groypers on Twitter are coping so fucking hard, man. They're all like, yeah, getting 10% of the vote in the Republican primary is a great accomplishment. Good job, James Fishback. Congratulations. It's like, oh yeah, sure, dude. That was your guy. He can't even win 10% of a Republican primary? Good fucking luck in a general election.
plan was out. So one guy decided he was going to take his BMW Isetta, cut the roof off, and then he was just going to drive.
Like, bro, the people who vote in primaries are the most extreme people on the political, like, you know, I guess, spectrum. You know, hardcore leftists vote in primaries for the left, and hardcore right-wingers vote in Republican primaries. So if he couldn't even get 10% of, like, hardcore, politically active, right-wing people, like, it's over, bro. Like, that's terrible. 10%?
Right underneath the checkpoint, going full speed, and he was going to duck, and that's how he was going to break into West Berlin, and that's exactly what he did. And because of this, the East Germans added spike strips and barricades to every checkpoint. Every time somebody escaped into West Berlin, the communists fixed however it was possible. They made it more and more difficult, and the escape attempts got more and more creative. Some of my personal favorites include shooting a steel cable over the wall from a high building and then ziplining to the other side, having somebody from West Berlin get a cow costume and tow a cattle trailer into East Berlin, and then have two of his friends dress up in the cow costume and stand in the cattle trailer as they made it through the checkpoint, stealing a tank and trying to drive it through the wall. And when you got away from the Berlin Wall itself and you actually went to the East and West German border, the escape attempts got even crazier. One group of brothers took a farmer's crop duster, painted it like a Soviet MiG plane, flew it from West Germany into East Germany, picked up their other brother, and flew him back. And my absolute personal favorite escape from communism was when two fathers got together and for a year and a half gathered fabric and propane and supplies so that they could build a fucking hot air balloon to escape to West Germany. Okay, I'm gonna say that again, but a little bit slower. 8 people, 2 families, 2 fathers, 2 mothers, and 4 children escaped communism using a hot air balloon. Do you understand the gravity of what I've just told you? Because as a husband and a dad, it speaks volumes to me that 2 men in my situation got together, looked around, and said, these living conditions are so horrific that the best bet for me and you and our wives and our kids is to secretly gather up a bunch of cotton fabric, aka flammable shit, sew it into a balloon, attach it to a wicker basket, more flammable shit, and then propel it with a fucking flamethrower as we try to get away as fast as the wind will take us while the guards are shooting at us. Okay, look, all I'm saying is I've never seen anybody that determined to escape capitalism. That's all I'm saying. But that's not real communism. Of course it's not, because it's never real communism whenever something goes bad. But whenever something goes bad under capitalism, it's 100% capitalism's fault, and we should get rid of it and do communism instead. Granted, communism every other time we've tried it's ended in genocide and murder and human rights violations, but hey, I'm feeling it this time, guys.
Why does he keep like, we get it, man. We get it. You don't like communism, human rights. Like, this is where right-wingers really start to lose, I guess, optically. Like, it just becomes preachy. It's like, we get it, dude. We get it. It's the same recycled talking points since the 1950s. It's accepted as fact at this point, unless you're retarded.
We're just like, we're this close. Just 1, maybe 2 more genocides, and we're going to have that communist utopia. We should keep trying. I can't. I need a beer. Jesus. Sorry, I got carried away. I apologize. Anyways, the wall around Berlin gets more and more impenetrable, and eventually the only way to actually escape into West Berlin is to dig a tunnel and crawl your way out, which a ton of people did. Now, obviously, this is a PR nightmare. The communists have to explain to everybody why on earth they blocked off West Berlin and they're not letting anybody through, and because of that, they decide to give the Berlin Wall their name, the Anti-Fascist Rampart. Fascism, obviously referring to Nazis, which makes this, I believe, one of the first historical appearances of the unfortunately still prevalent line of thinking that
I wish
anybody that disagrees with me or how I live my life or my politics must be a Nazi. Yeah, that was the official stance of the Soviet Union, basically accusing every Western power of being a fascist regime and saying they built the wall to, quote, protect against fascist
dude, I fucking wish.
Elements conspiring to prevent the will of the people, despite the fact that the apparent will of the people was to leave their communist regime, but whatever. Just excuse me one more time, I'm so sorry, I just have to Google something real
Yahweh,
quick.
make it so, and my soul is yours.
Absolute authoritarianism without accountability. Check. Zero tolerance for criticism or questions, like getting arrested for political jokes, so I'm gonna go with check. Lack of meaningful financial disclosure regarding the budget. Check. Unreasonable fears about the outside world that often involve evil conspiracies and persecutions. Check. Okay, sorry. Anyways, back to the video. Despite all the propaganda saying the Western world was literally just a bunch of Nazis, most people in East Germany didn't buy it, and a ton of them still tried to escape to the West. Over the duration of the Berlin Wall, over 100,000 people would be captured and imprisoned for either telling political jokes, criticizing the government, or attempting to escape. In just a couple years, by 1964, these political prisoners were starting
and anti-Semitism
to stack up really quickly, and the USSR had to do something about it because it was costing them money and the prisons were full and they had to get rid of all these people. So I mean, what's a communist regime to do? Well, that's easy. We've got all these prisoners that we don't want. They don't want to be here. Let's ransom them over to the West. And that's exactly what they do. They ransomed 33,000 political prisoners to the West, and the West paid on average 4,000 Deutschmarks per person. I say on average because it wasn't a static price. The USSR put different values on different people based on their skills and job set. For example, a general laborer might only bring 1,800 Deutschmarks, whereas a doctor could bring 15,000. Now, granted, I'm probably reading way too far into this, but I do find it a tiny bit hypocritical that the communist government, the same government that supposedly is striving to create a moneyless, classless society where everybody is equal, is also taking political prisoners, assigning different values on their life based on their ability to produce an economic output, almost like they're putting them into separate classes, implying that some people are worth more than others, and then they're turning around and trying to sell them to another government for money, which is allegedly something else they don't want, which is, you know, weird. It's almost like it's all a bunch of talking points and bullshit so they can have a bunch of control. I can do this all day. How long? What is it going to take to convince you that communism is bullshit? Tell me. I'll do it.
Guys, no. There's no... Hold on, dude. There's no way. Dan Bilzerian outperformed James Fishback 2-1 in his primary. Are you fucking shitting? That's brutal, dude. Nick Fedtez on fucking suicide watch, bro. Dan Bilzerian, who didn't even fucking campaign, got 20% of the vote in his primary. That's brutal, man. That's fucking brutal. Oh my god, dude. Groiper dub, guys. How can we twist this into a Groiper dub? Dude, that's... Oh my god.
I object!
And why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case!
Overruled.
Good call!
In addition to the 33,000 political prisoners that the USSR essentially auctioned off for money, they also agreed to release 215,000 East German citizens for the low, low price of 2.3 billion Deutschmarks. Between 1945 and 1989, over 600 Germans were killed either trying to cross the border from East to West Germany or from East to West Berlin. And that is considered to be a very low, very conservative number because the USSR didn't want to release the actual numbers or admit that they'd killed anyone because every single person they killed trying to escape communism was a huge political hit to them. Which raises the question, what happened in 1989? Well, that's the best part of the whole story. By 1989, the Soviet Union was going bankrupt, they were beginning to crumble, they were losing their sphere of influence, and more civil unrest started to occur. And by November of 1989, in East Germany, there were protests, people demanding that they had the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the ability to critique their government without getting arrested, and most importantly, the freedom of travel. The communist government knew that they had to give the people an inch before the people turned around and took a mile, and the 1 inch they were willing to give them was they were going to get rid of the travel ban and finally start granting people visas. They weren't going to charge them money, they weren't going to have some special circumstance to do it, and most importantly, they were actually going to approve people and they were going to do it quickly. These new travel regulations were drafted on November 8th, they were going to be announced to the public on November 9th on live TV, and on November 10th they would go into effect and people could show up to the passport office, apply, and ideally get accepted and have the freedom to travel west. And that's kind of what happened. November 8th, the new regulations get drafted, that's fine. November 9th, they hand the new regulations to a government spokesperson by the name of Gunter Schabowski, and he's going to read them on a government press conference on live TV. He didn't have time to read through all the papers, nobody took the
This guy shops at Cabela's for fun. I've never been in a Cabela's.
time to explain it to him, so on live TV, he just kind of wings it.
We'll do it live!
He reads off what he
I think I'll just go browse. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Bass Pro Shop was kind of cool to go to. I assume Cabela's is pretty much the same thing, but I don't really do outdoorsy shit.
thinks is important, which is just here's the new rules that we're living by, and everybody's like pretty happy about it, and one journalist asks, when does this go into effect? And Gunter, not having time to have read through all the papers, kind of shuffles through them real quick, looking for an effective date, and which he doesn't see one. It's there, he just doesn't see it. So he just kind of shrugs and he's like, as far as I know, quote, immediately, without delay.
Das tritt nach meiner Kenntnis ist das sofort.
And with that, going out on live TV, East Germans got up and started going to the wall. Now, this announcement was at the ass end of a boring government press conference, so not a lot of people saw it, but then the news outlets started picking it up, and they started airing it, both in East and West Germany, and then even more people started showing up on both sides of the wall. And within just a few hours, tens of thousands of people had shown up to Checkpoint Charlie, one of the main checkpoints for the Berlin Wall, to go from east to west, and they demanded to be let go because they had just been told by their government on live TV that they had the freedom of travel, and the guards had no idea what was going on, and they were outnumbered tens of thousands to one. And eventually, the guards were forced to simply let people through, and then word spread that they actually let them through, and all of Berlin, both east and west, came out and had basically the biggest block party the world has ever seen, as a city that had been divided in half for 28 years was finally reunited. And then they celebrated this reunification by tearing down the wall that had separated them for so long. In conclusion, Germany after World War II is the closest thing to a controlled experiment that you can have, pitting capitalism against communism to see which one would triumph in real life. They took one country with one people, divided it down the middle, and gave each a set of rules to live by. And while capitalism is far from perfect and it has a ton of things that we can improve upon, I think the results of this experiment speak for themselves. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch, thefatelectrician.com. Whack bang.
24 hours stream this week for what? What am I streaming 24 hours for? There's not a good reason for me to do that. Think of my mental health, dude. Griff, PSA is a scam, only if you're retarded. Are you retarded, PK? Got something you need to tell everyone? Are you chat's little retard? Think of the money, Griff. The money? I don't know, bro. 24 hours is a long time. I don't know if my little heart could take it. More Gooner shorts, dude. SNK Nostalgia with the two, capitalism or communist. Which one? If I get to be in charge, I'm going to be a commie. But if I have to live underneath, capitalism. See, if I get to rule with an iron fist, then I'm more than happy with accumulating all assets and resources into my pocket. But, yeah, obviously capitalism's the better of the two. Guys, look.
The shuttering of Pokemon Bank coming up here in February is of particular interest to me as somebody who's becoming more entrenched in the world of trying to save physical media, or at least...
Oh, dude, I'm over it. They literally, this is their entire identity now, bro. The entire gaming sphere's like new identity is, we gotta save physical media, guys. My digital storage for Pokemon games is literally gonna be the same as preserving physical media. What a false equivalency, bro.
The shuttering of Pokemon Bank coming up here in February is of particular interest to me as somebody who's becoming more entrenched in the world of trying to save physical media, or at least...
What about Pokemon Bank has anything to do with physical media? Pokemon Bank is basically a Google Drive for Pokemon. Nothing about it is physical. It is the definition of a live service product. But, you know, hey. Whatever. It's all so tiresome. Should we see if we have a Dreamcast video to watch real quick? I'm sure it's the usual topics. Dumb new lie? What is it?
Hey there, gamers, DreamcastGuy here. Today we're talking about the PlayStation controversy because clearly a lot of the big Sony defenders, and it feels like Sony themselves, is cooking up a very big and
The Sony defenders, you mean you?
honestly a very stupid new lie. They're trying to claim that digital games are expensive because of physical games.
Well, Nintendo made their digital games cheaper, so...
Digital future is great because once there aren't all these pesky discs, suddenly games are going to get a lot cheaper. Now, their logic behind this argument is that for every game they sell for $70, about $15 of cost just goes to that sell. Like the cost
It does.
to printing this disc, making a box, shipping it to Walmart, some dude shelving it and selling it, this $70 game makes them $55 of profit. So the big argument that I keep seeing
Yeah.
kicked around is, oh, if it gives them $55,
It's actually closer to $30 of every $70 video game goes to, you know, production costs, shipping costs, overhead costs. On top of that, then the store wants a share of the revenue. So it's about 30% that stores take.
then digitally, they'll just charge you $55. Now, this is obviously a lie. It's a flat-out stupid lie. And today, I want to break it down. I want to take a look at the responses to this because a lot of people really are trying to perpetuate this rather insane concept that suddenly, just out of the good of their heart, companies will charge less, that they'll just choose.
I mean, Nintendo did, to be fair. You know, the Nintendo Switch, baby. The Nintendo Switch. They lowered all their game prices by $10 digitally. So, in theory, it could happen. Will it happen? Most likely not.
To screw you a bit softer. Let's get into it. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this.
I just find it funny, bro. All these people who shat on Nintendo for so fucking long, like, now kind of have to eat their fucking words on a lot of it, because Nintendo is quite literally postured as the most pro-consumer, like, console manufacturer at the moment. That's the ironic part. What company gives you a discount for buying digital over physical? Nintendo. Which console hasn't had a dramatic price increase? Nintendo. Which console actually releases a normal cadence of first-party exclusive content? Nintendo. So it is kind of ironic.
Video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's start with this new lawsuit that's really been cooking up here, especially in the last couple weeks. So currently, there is a big lawsuit currently going on against what they're calling the SONY tax. If you actually compare the price of digital games versus physical games are dramatically cheaper.
All right, I'm going to pull up my example. I was going to make a community post with this image and be like, this is what they took from you. Hold on, let me see if I have it still. I should somewhere. I think. Maybe I don't have it anymore. Anyway, it was a picture of Dragon's Crown, and it was basically a sale on PlayStation Network. If I can't find... Yeah, I don't know. I might have deleted it. But anyway, it was a picture of Dragon's Crown for PS4. And the physical copy... Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here we go. This is what I wanted to pull up. But essentially, the digital version was 1/5 of the price of the physical copy. So, I wanted to post it and say, this is what Sony is taking from you. And then put, like, ... Oh, wait. But yeah, here. This is what I was going to show. Dragon's Crown Pro is $399 on US PSN. PS4 physical, $21.61. This is what they're taking from us, guys. This is what they're taking from us.
The second-hand market,
Yeah, it is a cool game.
competes to be the lowest possible. Any game you're trying to buy,
The sorceress character in that game is very well done.
a lot of times it's way cheaper, especially the fact that you can get it on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or buy it some guy named Daryl from his trunk down the street, right? There is a competition for the most affordable product, so it sells. Whereas in a digital marketplace, they can charge whatever, whenever, forever. And this has basically led to a 47% increase in cost. 47% more expensive than physical copies for every single PlayStation game. And basically, they're trying to say this is a PlayStation monopoly. The fact that there isn't any other storefront, any ability of digital ownership. I can't return my games, trade my games, sell my games. It's basically people trying to say, you need to find some way to add value or ownership to the library, or else that's literally illegal. Now, let's get into this absolutely ignorant lie I keep seeing from a lot of the big PlayStation fans, including this guy here, CEO, Emmy-nominated award winner. This dude, OS, Square Enix Holdings. Yeah, fantastic, buddy. Digital on the PlayStation Store will likely get cheaper. I've explained this several times. Current prices are tied to retail. Without physical discs holding the digital hostage, we'll see a larger spectrum of pricing similar to Steam. Now, this is a deeply stupid concept. You know why? They've been kicking around this idea for over a decade. You know, all the way back in the PlayStation 4, people were talking about, why don't we get more tiers of experience, more $10 games, more $40 games, more AA that...
More AA because y'all are obsessed with graphics. Every single time a game comes out, like, hey, yo, bro, why this ain't looking as good as Red Dead Redemption 2 and shit?
Isn't trying to be AAA. And
I mean, literally, the only complaint we've heard consistently about Switch games is, hey, yo, this ain't be looking like no AAA game. Like, that's it. That's it. That's the #1 complaint you hear about every single Nintendo game, is Nintendo games don't look photorealistic. So, yeah, when you have a bunch of fucking Gollum class members of society that view a game and value it based on the photorealism of its graphics, this is the end result. No more AA games.
He's right. You do see this on Steam. The amount of games I'm currently playing, like, what is it called? Machine Party. There are a lot of great games that are $5, that are very fun for $5. They're short, they're sweet, they usually have bad graphics.
Let's see, SNK Nostalgia with a 5 Sega CD and Lob Suit? Dreamcast Guy. Why? Damn it, why? It is kind of sad that Dreamcast is synonymous with Dreamcast Guy in my head. I've never held a Dreamcast in my life, but the only thing I think of when I hear it is Dreamcast Guy.
They're usually made by like 3 friends.
He should get permission from Sega to sell the hat.
Stuff does exist on Steam, and it just doesn't exist at all when it comes to the PlayStation console. And I guess his excuse is, oh, well, if they have to sell it, they're stuck. They have to obey the MSRP, the manufacturer suggested retail price. They don't want to do it. They have to do it. Oh, shucks. They have to scam you. Look at that. One more time. Everyone will be negatively impacted if we let Sony erase physical media. Not just physical buyers. Digital will get more expensive as well. Now, immediately everybody is calling this guy stupid. The exact rate companies they left to achieve their monopoly. Courts have not found the Sony store to be a legal definition of a monopoly.
That is true. Nobody forces you to play on PlayStation. So, you know, if you want to buy your video games from somewhere other than PlayStation, maybe don't buy a PlayStation? Food for thought?
The dumbest take I've ever seen on this platform. I'm sure when Galileo said the Earth was round, you would have said the same.
Dog, what type of fucking comparison is that?
Oh, God. Sorry.
He's the Galileo of gaming.
Can't read this guy's tweets anymore. It's going to make me freaking want to delete my character. We're just out here lying now. Now, what's funny about this is that
the Galileo of gaming.
A lot of people comparing this to the thing that the
Holy
Switch
shit,
2 is
bro.
doing, right? Basically, what they're saying is that if you want to make stuff cheaper, they already would have done it. Like right here. Right now, the Nintendo Switch 2 has rolled out a new initiative where if you want a game digitally, it's cheaper. It's $10 cheaper. Now, I still have my own prices, but just in general, the fact that their games stay expensive forever. A copy of Breath of the Wild, which is like 10 years old, still full price. But recently, I bought a physical edition of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition.
I did too.
I'm obsessed with Xenoblade Chronicles 1 specifically. This cost me $60. If I bought it digitally, it'd be
was 70.
$50. Essentially, what they're trying to say is that they don't have to wait for this to be a problem. They could do it right now. There's no incentive to lower it, and they just choose not to. And again, there's this, right? GTA 6 does not have a physical edition, and they're charging $80 for the basic version. Game companies are never going to reduce prices ever, and they're still going to find new ways to monetize everything. The people that are trying to claim, oh, they're just stuck, they have to do this, oh, they have no other option than to absolutely rip you off. Not a chance. You people are deluded. They want to kill the secondhand market. You have no other option but to buy from them. And then suddenly, those deep discounts just disappear because they no longer have to compete with brick and mortar. Lying to yourself. Look at this. 4,000 likes. Look at that. Who is they? Sony and other video game corporations, they're all trending this way. Sony is the first to do this after Rockstar Games opened those floodgates. That's the thing, right? I think that right now, these companies are thrilled about the all-digital future because now there is no competition. If I want to charge $40, $80, $90, $200 for a game, they can just do that. If you don't think they're going to make $200 digital deluxe editions with extra storylines and pre-order bonuses,
They already do.
they're going to do it. I mean, right now, call it on the clock right now.
They've already done that, and that's with physical being a thing, so... It's already happening with physical discs still as an option. In fact, there's like, what, $150 physical editions sometimes, so...
I'm saying this right before freaking September starts. There's going to be $200 digital deluxe editions once the freaking physical media is gone. Literally, everything.
Dreamcast Guy, it might blow your mind, but there's already like $400 collector's editions of physical games. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here, bro? There already is $200 like digital deluxe editions of every fucking AAA game that comes out. They're like 150, 160 bucks for fucking Sports Ball Sim 2028. Like, this is already a thing, and it's been a thing while physical media has been a thing. This is nothing new. Like, he's not some fucking Nostradamus predicting the future here. Like, this is already well-established shit in the industry.
We've seen for the market historically proves this to be false. The level of gaslighting should be downright illegal. These people are literally lying. This guy is literally probably being paid to lie. You know, I'm just speculating here, but a lot of these people...
He's probably literally being paid to lie. I'm just speculating. Okay, sure.
Making these kind of statements, there is no way you could sit down,
Why don't you just come out and say it with your chest, DreamcastGuy? Let it all out.
look at the math, look at the history, and think, man, if there wasn't all these pesky discs, games would suddenly get a lot cheaper. How many great indie games right now are even under $10? Not on sale. How many great games are under $10 already on PlayStation? Almost none. And that's by design. That is by PlayStation design. They want to keep it expensive forever to milk you for every single dime. Pay for online, pay for the free games they give, pay for retro games, put everything behind a subscription model, and then even when you do choose to buy something like the new Wolverine game, oh, sorry, the only way to buy it is to pay us $100 a pop. You know, I saw this today, and it really hit a note. It was this guy saying, I'm starting to lose interest in gaming. I have no interest in turning on my PlayStation 5. I just feel...
Can't afford this shit!
Guys. Not because of how bad games are getting, but because of my heckin' physical media, dude. Ah, man. Welcome to my world, but for the wrong reasons.
lethargic when I turn my other consoles on. And it's just the fact that gamers are continuing to feel so utterly screwed over in a way that we haven't been in the past. I've been gaming since the 80s. And you know what? There's been good generations and bad generations. I'm not going to pretend it's all been smoke and flowers, but there has been times where gaming has been
Smoke and flowers. I've never heard that one before, but all right.
a renaissance, an explosion, the rise of indies, the earliest Xbox arcade, the first, like those awesome early lobbies of Call of Duty. There was so many different crazy eras of gaming, whereas now it does feel like we're just hitting this point where all that exists is profitability. All that matters is, hey, how can we milk people? And you know what that's causing it? Apathy. People are burning out. People are permanently burning out. When people stop arguing, stop caring, stop getting excited, stop turning on the console, that's when you have a much bigger problem. Anger means they want to fight something. Apathy means they've started to imagine life without you. I really do think we're starting to hit actual apathy. I do think we're starting.
Yeah, welcome to my fucking world, only it wasn't over something as gay as my physical discs. But instead, it was the fact that gaming just genuinely fucking sucks now.
To hit a
The Western gaming industry needs to crash and burn.
layer of disconnectedness. A lot of people right now that I've talked to are just going back to the past. They're playing GameCube games, they're playing emulated stuff, they're playing old PlayStation 2 stuff in 4K. Even if there's a remastered version of it, or an upgraded version of it, or a newer version of it, they'd rather play the old game with a real controller the way they want forever. At this point, people
With a real control. Dude, that's... Alright, this is another cope. People are not going to fucking retro games. Like, stop. This guy's name is Retro Brand.
don't care about these companies. They care about the game.
People don't care about the companies, they care about the games. That's such a lie, dude. You cry every single time devs get laid off.
Games. They care about the experiences. They care about the good there used to be. And when you take that good away, when you stop holding that carrot on a stick, they're going to go back to the stuff that made them happy. Because really, all they care about is gaming. These have been some off-the-cuff thoughts. How do you feel about the future of PlayStation? How do you feel about the future of physical discs and that big PlayStation lawsuit? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something
You're
else,
welcome.
you can always click this
Happy to do it, Dreamcast guy. Alright, I got a little more time. Let's see. Alright, we'll do this one and then...
Hey there, gamers. DreamcastGuy here.
Uh-oh.
Today we're talking about the future of PlayStation because Sony is...
Ooh. Dude, he better not be fucking traveling and brought that stupid controller with him. I'm gonna lose my shit.
discussing the PlayStation 6, and honestly, the talks
Do you guys think he travels with it? Maybe so.
are very fascinating to me because it does sound like Sony is beginning to panic. And it does seem like, according to their own statements, they're about to delay the PlayStation.
That ugly ass God of War controller, dude. Chaka Shaka Gaming with the 3. Why are we watching this idiot? He's bald. So are you, bro. Being bald doesn't matter. And SNK Nostalgia with the 2. Dreamcast guy can borrow my 41 mag. That's nice of you, man.
6. Every
To what purpose would he use it for?
rumor right now, from manufacturers to console makers to chip people, everything was pointing at 2027. And it sounds like, because of all the bad news, the dead PS5 sales, the price increases, the discussions of boycotts, it does seem like Sony is trying to peel back. That they're trying to essentially say, okay, we have to release the PlayStation 6, we can't cancel a console, but on top of that, we need it to be a hit. Now, I think that there is what I like to call a scared curiosity about the PlayStation 6, because every previous console generation, whenever next gen is being discussed, it's very clear. It's very clear what is good or bad about it, right? Hey, here's better graphics, here's better exclusives, here's new revisions to the controller. And this console generation feels very strange because PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 did feel like a good leap. You know, suddenly all 4K, solid state drives, so no load times. The world's managed to be so different, even if graphically they looked similar, the PlayStation 5 felt so different. Whereas with the PlayStation 6, I think a lot of people are curious, what can be different? Graphics are getting so good. I mean, let's be honest, dev times are getting so long. A lot of people are saying, okay, even if a game comes out and I do absolutely love it, and it is a PlayStation 6 exclusive, I'm probably only going to get one. Am I going to get one game on PlayStation 6, one game on PlayStation 7, one game on PlayStation 8? The PS6 feels like it's trying too hard to jump some giant shark. It's trying to jump too far into this all-digital future, and I just think that people aren't excited for the PlayStation 6 as Sony needs them to be. But today we're going to discuss a very in-depth interview done by the CEO of Sony, because he's talking a lot about how, very openly, they really don't know how to handle the already made PlayStation 6. They were already ready and set to go to drop this thing, but now, what do they do? Well, let's take a look.
Yeah, I don't know who cares about the PS6, man. Like, the PS6 could come out in 4 years from now, and I don't know if people would be thrilled about it. Like, this generation has been such a, you know, just fart in the wind that it's like, they need to actually release some shit that people like. You know, start releasing some games. The hardware's plenty powerful enough for what it is. We don't really need to rush next generation. You know, we barely got an upgrade over the PS4 to the PS5. Like, there is no point in sticking to the 6 to 7 year console generation cycle when technology has essentially plateaued.
Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Sorry about the temporary backdrop. I'm not at my house right now. I wanted to film a video because I do find this fascinating, but I will be back home.
He did, dude, he traveled with the controller. Holy fuck, man. He travels with that God of War controller.
Literally tomorrow. But I want to talk about this. So I do think a lot of the doom and gloom about PlayStation has been about stuff like this. The widespread PlayStation Network outage that happened, 3 weeks ago. There was a big outage. PSN was down for hours and hours and hours. They didn't say why. It didn't say how. And ever since then, what was weird about it is that both physical and digital games pretty much immediately became irrelevant. Not only did all servers go down, cloud saves went down, eShop went down. It was the fact that this is clearly what PlayStation wants to talk about as the future of games, right? There's no need for anything. Everything is in the cloud. Sony is really pushing the all-digital future. They're betting everything on the all-digital future, and they're trying to claim this will be for the best. Hey, we can give you games faster, everything's instantly ready.
SNK Nostalgia with the 2 Dreamcast guys signed a job application. Oh my god. Say it ain't so. And Shaka Shaka Gaming with the 8. Caring about physical media has 2 requirements, being 40 years old and having diabetes. Also, Griffin, what's worse, Kingdom Hearts or Persona? Ooh. Persona doesn't have Goofy, so I'm gonna have to go with Kingdom Hearts.
Hypothetically, we can make games cheaper. They won't, but they're really pushing that. So when I saw them talking about the PlayStation 6, it seems like a lot of the doom and gloom is like, okay, are we ready for this all-digital future? And what is it that could be so spectacular that I'd be willing to overlook the death of physical media? Sony CEO Hiroki Tokuti has confirmed the company still hasn't fixed a launch date for the PlayStation 6. So with many of the rumors surrounding it pointing to 2027, Sony itself isn't ready to put a date on the calendar. Sony CEO Hiroki Tokuti has confirmed that the company still hasn't fixed a launch date for the PlayStation 6, according to the Wall Street Journal. That's particularly interesting because analysts are increasingly expect the next PlayStation to arrive in 2027. Let's zoom this in a little bit. Those expectations are...
Shaka Shaka Gaming with the 3. What's your beef with Goofy? I don't get it. I have zero nostalgia for anything related to Kingdom Hearts or Disney or anything like that. So
I can't afford this shit!
it's just, you know, nothing about it has any sort of real nostalgia whatsoever. And I feel like that's the thing that fuels Kingdom Hearts, is if you have nostalgia for like 1990s Disney, or I guess now more so modern Disney, then it appeals to you. But I dislike Disney with all of my being. I have no nostalgia for any of its IPs really at all. The only Disney IP I actually like is Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's only 3 out of the 5 movies. So yeah, it's corny to me. I didn't watch Mickey Mouse as a kid. I have no attachment to Goofy whatsoever, or Donald Duck, or Mickey Mouse, or any of that shit. It's just cheesy.
now becoming less certain as AI demands drives shortages of key components
And SNK Nostalgia with the 2, we could help DreamcastGuy. Nope, it's just funny. Brutal, man. At least he has his God of War controller.
pushes memory costs across a wider gaming and entertainment industry. Now, what's happening right now is there's a lot of discussion that you can't just make a console. I can't just say, hey, it's time to make, 8 million phones. I'm going to make 8 million phones. The way that stuff works now, of course, is that you got to order the chips. You got to pre-order the parts. You got to build the factories. You got to set up the supply line. So even if I am trying to just build a bunch of PlayStation controllers, you don't just snap and they appear. There's a lot of discussions. And what a bunch of these companies have been talking about right now is that when you're trying to bid on parts, you're bidding against all these AI companies. A lot of these AI companies are trying to buy out entire factories. They're trying to literally go in before chips are made. Literally, there's discussions about this and say, hey, we want to buy all the chips you make for any variety, any size, anything for the next couple of years. Sony, Valve has actually talked about this as well. A lot of these companies are saying that they're going in and you have to outbid these AI companies. And then even on top of that, once you do, okay, now it's locked in. We know we paid, $2,000 for this chip or whatever. Now we know that it costs at least that much to make the consoles. Sony right now is making these deals. The deals, a lot of times, according to the leaks, are set in stone. They've already inked it. Now they just need to get the chips and they need to get going. And so it sounds like Sony is in a spot where they're like, okay, we can't really back out. We have already bought the chips at the current market standard. If we delay it and the AI bubble does pop, prices do drop dramatically. Was it a bad idea to buy stuff that's this expensive? Was it a bad move to basically try to buy stuff at the highest possible markup and then sell it at a loss? It seems like what they're trying to do is, okay, how do we just go forward from here? Sony doesn't live and die by consoles anymore. The obvious question is why Sony can't simply pick a...
Yes, they do. Sony doesn't live or die by consoles? They absolutely do. If Sony lost its console business, they would be fucked.
And move forward. The answer is that the company has
Like, the anime and music stuff still makes money, but the rest of Sony is struggling.
changed considerably from electronics giant it once was. Under Totoki, Sony has increasingly shifted towards IP-driven entertainment with movies, music, and games now accounting for the vast majority of its revenue. That makes the PlayStation 6 important, but not necessarily the single biggest thing keeping Sony's business moving. Sony can make the biggest franchises turn them into movies, like The Last of Us, the God of War TV show. Everything's gearing up. But they're trying to basically figure out, okay, how do we make next gen when we really don't know what next gen is going to look like? Now, I don't believe it personally, but a lot of people are trying to claim suddenly AI is this hyper useful tool. What if we could just generate all the
It is.
code, all the art, all the dialogue? What if we could hypothetically just prompt a game? Now, I'll die on the hill that I don't want to play an AI generated game at all, but especially not in
I don't, like, honestly, if the AI generated game is good, I genuinely don't fucking care how it's made. Like, why would it matter? As a customer, let's say an AI game comes out, you play it, and then you don't find out it's AI until after you finish it. Like, do you suddenly hate the game? No. The only thing that matters is, like, that you actually enjoy the game that you're playing. So if AI can produce a perfect one-to-one creation of what a traditional video game should be, I don't really care, to be completely honest. I don't care if everything was hand-drawn or not or whatever. It doesn't really matter.
AI-generated first-party game by PlayStation, but a lot of these companies are basically saying, okay, what if it is just at least for QA? What if it is for just bug testing? What if there is something in here that goes, hey, at least at the very least, we can cut out a lot of the work and make that all AI done. Even that would speed up the process to make a 5-year dev time 4.5 years or 4 years, right? They're essentially saying maybe they're trying to prepare for PlayStation 6 in this next generation of development. Again, I don't fully believe it, but here's the thing. Sony really does seem like they're trying their best to find the right place to drop PlayStation 6 and be ready for PlayStation 6. A lot of people in the comments are like, right now, as much as it would be great, people are still buying the PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 graphics are still good. Delayed, delayed, delayed. Here's the line that really inspired this video. Console development takes years. Manufacturing negotiations, if they start the ball rolling shortly after the launch of the PlayStation 5 as they normally do, they have to get ready. A lot of games right now take longer and longer and longer to make. I would say there is some rumors that as of April of last year, Sony told everybody, just make PlayStation 6 games. Just make PlayStation 6 games. The PS5 is going to get sunset. Every PlayStation 6 game apparently will run in a downgraded form on the PlayStation 5. I just don't think that right now, next year especially, makes any sense for PlayStation. I mean, the idea of trying to launch this at the bleakest period of the PlayStation 5 suddenly start talking about the PlayStation 6, even if it does hypothetically have the best graphics you've ever seen and all those dream exclusives, oh, a Bloodborne remake and Bloodborne 2 and all this, I just don't think that there's any hype. There's no anybody out here being like, oh boy, I can't wait to pay thousands of dollars for next gen. And I think a lot of this is that when they say this, it's going to be met with a very, very stunning level of silence. Something PlayStation has never experienced ever before. I have just, like, personally in my real life, I have seen and read everything about the launch of the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation Vita, the PlayStation TV, which nobody even exists anymore. And with each of these, there was this rising tide of I need next gen. I need to see what is possible next, right? Oh, asymmetrical cores in the PlayStation 3. Oh, with the PlayStation 2, the earliest big amounts of DVD discs, that created a giant advancement where now we could have better.
I don't think anyone cares about that in particular. The biggest selling point of consoles has always been what games can you not play anywhere else? Or what games need the new hardware of the next generation in order to exist? That is the selling point. People don't care about the DVD technology or the amount of RAM or the fucking CUDA cores or whatever the fuck else. you know, a lot of these terminally online YouTubers care about. They care about the fucking video games, and this generation has not produced anything to warrant moving on to the next. So it doesn't matter about any of that shit. It doesn't matter if it is a technological leap. The fact of the matter is people don't feel like they got their money's worth from this generation, and until they do, they're not going to move on happily.
Audio quality, better visuals, more voice acting, full cutscenes. Each generation made a substantial leap forward that shifted the industry, especially when it came to PlayStation. This is the first generation where even if this thing does have incredible graphics and faster dev time and a lower price, I still think people are going to say, my PlayStation 5 is fine, or I'll go where the discs are at. With the desk of physical media, I do think that PlayStation has put themselves into a corner I'm not sure they can really talk their way out of. I do think that PlayStation has put themselves into such a negative space. No amount of exclusives can really get them going after this. I guess I'm curious to see the PlayStation 6. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think I am very curious to see the PlayStation 6 just because I want to see what it is, what it does, what it really makes it feel like a PlayStation 6. Because as bad as the PlayStation 5 has been, I did enjoy the launch a lot. With PlayStation 6, I kind of want to see this car accident kick off just because I can't even imagine where this is all going.
He enjoyed the launch a lot, huh? SNK Nostalgia with a 2.
Shoot him! He's black! Shoot him! Racism!
I don't know, man. Off the cuff, early AM thoughts in a house that ain't mine. How do you feel about PlayStation 6? How do you feel about the future of PlayStation in general? And are you going PC after this? I have also seen a bunch of people talking about getting a Nintendo Switch 2 because at least it does have cartridges. But thank you for watching. If you could, please give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.
What will it, though? Alright, guys, I do need to hop off, so it is 9:20. So I probably should start getting to work, dude. I'm getting stuff popping in now, plus I got a 10 o'clock meeting, so... Anyway, have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody. And, yeah, guess I'll talk to everyone later tonight. Peace out, guys.